millions of people, and we've seen those heart-wrenching videos of homes completely washed away, communities just burned to ashes. Now we have a lot of families in the area asking, how do we recover from the devastation left behind? Corinne Packard is the professor of Post-Catastrophe Reconstruction at NYU Schack Institute, here to answer that question for us. I mean, because, Corinne, you've responded to disasters on the level of the earthquake in Haiti, you've gone to Sri Lanka, you know what it's like. How does Sandy compare to some of the other kind of disasters you've seen globally?
Well, I think one of the things that really stands out to me here in New York is the way that the mayor and our administration has done such an amazing job in their pre-preparedness. The decision to evacuate certain areas and the decision to shut down the subway in advance were really wise decisions that made us really able to get the systems back and running pretty quickly.
And may not have only saved equipment, but may have saved lives as well. You say that there are 3 stages here to recovery. Let's go through them one by one.
So the relief stage was when search and rescue happened, fire, and the medics were there. And now we're really still in the relief phase, which is where there's a lot of volunteers who are trying to provide the people in need. And we really need, at this time, to send supplies to the areas of the people who are still struggling.
But sometimes, and I know this from my work with the Red Cross, sometimes the donations are kind of mismatched with the needs. Like we've seen a lot of people, a lot of video of people showing up with things that you might think of, flashlights, but now that the power is coming back on, how necessary, how useful are flashlights going to be?
It's really important to be aware of what the communities need. There's organizations that are really monitoring daily and on an hourly basis what's in need. For example, in the Rockaways, there's a group called Rockaway Relief that has a Facebook page, and they're posting, for example, yesterday they needed carbon monoxide detectors. They don't need old Gap t-shirts, you know?
Right, and so clothing might have been in that rapid response, what we needed right away after the storm is over, but now you're looking at things that people need to go back in and start rebuilding. What are the kinds of goods would you expect that people could donate that would be useful right now?
Well, what you should really do is just follow the daily updates. Smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are really going to help keep people safe, especially in this time without power. Even things like transistor radios, so people can get up to the date information, because there's a lot of areas that still don't have power.
We've heard the mayor, Governor Cuomo, Governor Christie, other emergency management officials talking about big plans. What's the third step here when it comes to reconstruction for communities?
So I think the most important for communities right now is to start organizing themselves in grassroots efforts so that when the government and international organizations come in to start replanning and rebuilding these neighborhoods, they together know what they need in terms of infrastructure and what their communities want. And they have to decide where the most effective place is to rebuild their homes.
Corinne, we were talking earlier about those placards that the city is using to label things that either A, it's okay, you just need some minor work and you can go back in, B, you've got some severe damage, it's going to take a while, or the red cards that say, no, you can't rebuild this at all. A lot of families are going to go back in and go, should I rebuild?
Yeah.
What goes into that decision?
It's a really tough question. In Sri Lanka, where I studied, there was the government prevented people from going back to the coastline. They weren't allowed to live within 500 feet of the coast because it was after the tsunami. And so people moved inland, and they built houses for people inland. It turned out they weren't able to live there because their jobs were fishing, and they were on the coast. So they abandoned all these houses that were built, and they ultimately went back to the coast. So decisions need to be made back now about if people are going to move.
And that's at the government level, at the local, state, and even federal level.
Yeah. And now if people decide to move back to these vulnerable areas, they really need to think about how to build disaster-resistant, sustainable construction methods.
And for a lot of people, their jobs were disrupted because of the transit problems and the transit shutdowns. Do you have advice for people who may be trying now to commute from areas they didn't live before and managing transit systems that are just now coming back online?
Well, one of the things that people should start to think about with jobs that may have been lost because people couldn't get to work is that there's a lot of people in need, there's a lot of demand, and this is the time to be entrepreneurial and come up with new business ideas that can help those people in need.
All right, Corinne, it's great of you to join us
Thanks,
this morning. We appreciate it. We're going to get a